and good to have you with us on this edition of the Urban Debate. Viewers, a big conversation and a big focus in our fight against coronavirus has been the medicines that are being used to treat corona patients. Now, while there isn't any vaccine available or there wasn't any specific medicine for COVID a few months ago, now there are drugs that many countries, including India, has allowed to be used for COVID patients. There are some which are separately labeled and dedicated for mild cases. Then there are the others that are meant for serious cases. And one name, viewers, that you would have heard is Remdesivir. The approvals for which came a short while ago. Since then, there is one company right now that's manufacturing it in our country. And that one company, Hetero, has managed to so far put 20,000 vials of Remdesivir in the market. And this is now being used by, at least in the big metro cities, to treat the serious patients. This is not easily available any which ways. It's a medicine which is supposed to be administered by a doctor. It has to be injected. And so it's largely about being available in the hospital chemist shops and with the hospital authorities or shops around them. But unfortunately, what we are seeing right now is because of the high demand, there isn't enough of this medicine available. We did a ground check. We did a check in Mumbai, we did a check in Bengaluru, and we did a check in Delhi. And we found that in all of these places, there was a problem. Most of the shops did not have this drug. Even the ones with the biggest of the hospitals, whether it was in Delhi or in Mumbai, even the ones where you would at least expect that here there are some vials of Remdesivir available. So tonight I want to talk about it. Now, while I say this, I should also tell you that there are two more companies, Cipla and Mylan, who have the approvals now and have begun the production. Both of them have announced this. Cipla, in fact, just today has come out with its announcement saying that yes, we are going to be manufacturing. They'll set themselves a target for the first 1 month itself. And so hopefully, as more and more of this drug is manufactured, the problem will subside. But that's not all, viewers. We have also found that there are multiple reports of this medicine being sold at an extravagantly high price, basically in the black market. So while it is supposed to cost just between 4,800 and 5,500, depending on which company you're buying it from, it is actually reportedly being sold at 30,000, 40,000 and even 80,000 per vial. Yes, viewers, just like we saw for sanitizers and masks in the first few weeks, and people had begun to hold and sell it at exorbitantly high prices, the same thing is happening right now. To the extent that the Maharashtra was one of those states where that first wrote to the center about it. And now the center has asked all the state governments to crack down on these black marketers. Tonight we are going to talk about the problems. What is it that the people are facing so that the authorities know? Maybe there is a need for the government to step in and pump up the production. How? How do we go about it? How do we ramp it up? That's another debate. And that's what we're going to ask our experts this evening. But I want to tell you that before I bring to you some of the reports that we've got from other cities, we also have some guests joining us. And these are people who've gone through a harrowing experience in trying to find the drug for a relative of theirs. These are the stories that are now happening in all of the big metros, viewers. And this is what should not be happening. Let's say good evening to Anoo Bhuyan Special Correspondent with India's Pen, who's done extensive writing on this entire issue. Dr. Nitin Dange, Professor Consultant, Senior Endovascular Neurosurgeon at KEM Hospital and also at the Lilavati Hospital in Mumbai. In fact, he's worked very closely on COVID cases, very well aware of the shortage that the hospitals are also facing right now. Dr. Laxman Jessani, Consultant Infectious Diseases at Apollo Hospitals also with us this evening. And then we have Mr. Dharmesh Shah, CMD of BDR Pharmaceuticals. But first up, I want to go across to Anuja. Anuja Tabrej is the daughter of a patient who got infected with corona, and she had a tough time trying to find this medicine, had to approach multiple places, multiple locations. Anuja, let's begin with you. If you can share with us what happened.
Okay, so my father, Jagdish Tabrej, who is right now admitted to OptiLife Hospital in Dombili, was detected COVID positive, and we were being prescribed with 7 doses of Remdesivir injection and Tocilizumab injection along with that. And I myself, being a pharmacist, couldn't find this injection anywhere in the market, and this is a genuine shortage as only one company is manufacturing this, and we are really hoping that other companies come up with such medicines and so that the red zones can fight this pandemic effectively. That's all.
Okay, so
Hello.
when you tried looking for it, we given to understand that since this is a drug that has to be administered by the medical experts and the doctors themselves, it's not something that will any which ways be easily available in the market. The distribution is also very limited. But what did the hospitals say? Were they not able to find this drug either?
Uh, no, even they weren't able to find this drug. But the irony over here is that I got this medicines from hospital pharmacy itself, the other hospital pharmacy, but not mine. Yeah.
Okay, and it was left to you. You were told by the hospital to go and hunt for it yourself, and something that you
Yes.
would have
Yes.
to go from one
Yes.
place to the other looking for it, is it?
One place. Yes. Yes. Exactly.
What's the situation right now, Anuja? Have you managed to find enough vials, enough dosage for your father?
So since Monday we were actually struggling so that we could get at least enough or the prescribed ones. But now when we have got them, so whatever we could experience is that unless and until you don't have an internal source or anything with the distributor or the chemist, you are not going to get it, however the critical situation of the patient is. So such is a situation. Also there is black marketing going on for remdesivir, and it's difficult for a layman person to get it easily.
How much did you end up paying for it? Were you also asked for an exorbitant price?
One of the dealers said that you will get one vial for 42,000, and whereas on the other hand the whole kit is of 30,000, wherein you get 6 injections. But I got it from a hospital pharmacy, so there was no issue of black marketing.
Okay, since you got it from the hospital pharmacy, you didn't have to pay that. But when you were searching for it
No.
and reaching out to
Yes.
various dealers, look at that, viewers. This is the problem. People are demanding exorbitant prices like 42,000, 50,000 per vial. And like I told you, the price is very, very different. The remdesivir that Hetero company actually is manufacturing right now, and they're the only ones whose drug is legitimately out there in the market. 20,000 vials that they have produced, and we are running out of them now. They cost about 5,400. Mylan, that has the approvals and will begin soon, is slated to charge about 4,800 per vial, and each patient is roughly needs about 5 to 6 depending on their case. Cipla, that has made the announcement just today and is hoping to have their medicine in the markets very soon, also is planning to charge about 4,000 rupees per vial. This is what we have been given to understand. But let me also bring in Anoo Bhuyan on this, since you've also done exhaustive research and writing on it, Anu. Why is this happening? One, of course, is that we only have one manufacturer, but is it because we're not able to crack down on black marketing and hoarding?
Hi, Tanvi. Thanks. There have been lots of reporters who've been reporting on this for a while. I have a story that's out this Monday at India Spend. And my story has looked at tocilizumab, which is another drug that is now experimentally being used for COVID treatment. But I've also briefly talked about remdesivir. The situation is such that these are all drugs that were being used in the past for various other illnesses. Tocilizumab, for example, is used for rheumatoid arthritis. So these are not new drugs. They've existed. They're not being made from scratch today. What's happening is that these are being repurposed now for COVID, and scientists and doctors around the world are starting to see if it's going to be useful. So far, we're seeing good results. Now, the situation, though, is that there definitely is a global shortage because people all over the world need it. But for example, in the case of remdesivir, we had news last week that the US government has bought up nearly all of the stock that Gilead has made of this drug. So the situation is, it's not great that they've done it, but when a government is interested and when they're proactive about it, they will do whatever it takes to make resources available for their citizens. So now what's happening is there's definitely a black market and gray market going on. I think the drug controller today has asked the company making remdesivir why it has taken so long, because they've received their approval to sell in India on the 1st of June. We're now on the 8th of July, and Cipla is announcing only today. So why has there been a situation for so long? However, with this drug tocilizumab, it's kind of even worse because only the company Roche is making it, and they haven't even licensed it out to others. So what's happening is people are spending, tens of thousands of rupees trying to buy remdesivir, and tocilizumab is kind of a drug that you may take simultaneously with remdesivir or you may take after remdesivir. So what happens is patients have already gone through so much of distress, spend so much of money, perhaps in the black market, to buy remdesivir, and then a situation may arise where they also need tocilizumab, and we have the same situation repeating in the case of tocilizumab. So, these are patients who are reaching the end of their line. Their families have already spent a lot of money, and their bodies are totally giving up, and doctors are reaching the end of their options with these patients. And in this situation of stress, I want people to imagine the stress that's happening, and the stress and anxiety. Family members, loved ones are being forced to deal with the black market, in order to get this drug. So it's not a great situation, and we need to see more proactivity from state governments and the central government on this.
Yes, we definitely need to see more proactivity from the central government on this front and, come up with suggestions of how to ramp this up. If indeed this is a drug which is helpful, and now there is enough evidence to suggest that at least it does reduce the number of days of the infection, and so if we've allowed companies to start manufacturing them and for hospitals to start using them, then we have to find a way of ensuring that it is available to people who absolutely need it. In fact, let me bring in Dr. Nitin Dange as well. Dr. Dange, you've also very closely seen this, and obviously as painful as it is for the families of the patients, it also becomes a very challenging task for the doctors when the drug is not available. Share with us your experiences and just how grave is the situation.
Yeah, so absolutely. Good evening, Tanvi, and thank you for having me here on this show. Let me quickly share my experience, and let me just come back to facts first. On the 13th of May, Gilead gave permission for manufacturing to 4 companies in India, and probably on 23rd June, DCGI gave approvals for manufacturing for the Indian companies. Now today we are on the 8th of July, and imagine we have lost so much of days, and the situation was really very panic. One of my family members who was critical and did not get the medicine, that was on 23rd of May, almost 10 days after getting an approval for manufacturing in India, the drug was not available. So we made it available with great difficulty to my own relatives on compassionate grounds. Now this is a very sad story. After that, I was very closely monitoring this drug, and I realized that the 4 runners, the COVID heroes, our own colleagues, the frontline workers who were getting sick, admitted for COVID, were not being able to get this drug. Simultaneously, there were so many critical patients, and this being a specific antiviral drug, it has really a good efficacy. And trust me, those patients or those relatives and friends of mine, my colleagues, senior doctors who were sick and ill, and they were very critical, they have come back after receiving this drug. So I myself have a good experience by arranging this drug on compassionate ground, and this was a wonder drug if given in time for selected patients who develop or having a high viral load. So I want to ask why there is a delay, why there was a delay so much, and why it's not easily available to the patient. Second question is, these patients, whoever has been
No.
advised or prescribed, the relatives are quarantined. So it has to be made available to the hospitals who are treating the patient. This is a very important practical suggestion, and all hospitals who are treating COVID patient should have the drug available and not make the relatives run here and there. Trust me, for last 1 month, I am
Yes.
every day 4 to 5 calls for each vial. So we need 6 doses per patient minimum,
No,
on the
so
first day.
in
And then
fact, Dr. Dange, if I can just come in there, because this was exactly my question also, that why is it that the hospitals are asking patients' families to go and get the drug and find it and buy it from somewhere? If it is something that only the hospital authorities can give and inject, shouldn't it only be available with these hospitals and their own chemist shops at max? For the patients which are there, we have so many reports of families having to run from one place to the other. This drug ideally shouldn't be in retail. It should only be with the hospitals, isn't it?
absolutely, but the hospitals are saying that they are not being supplied these drugs in spite of the demand, in spite of the purchase order. That's the question I really fail to understand. Where is the delay and where is the practical problem? We as a doctor, I feel that if the treatment is delayed, it's like treatment is denied. It has to be given to the patient, and every patient has a right to get this medicine. Either it is Remdesivir or you say Actemra or Tocilizumab. Both these drugs are important to be given in selected patients who are critical, more severely affected, and this is a life-saving drug. So it has to be given to indicated patient, and we cannot have a delay or shortage. So this is my humble request that whatever it is, there should be no time or there should be no delay, or the availability and stock should be handy.
Okay, I understand what you're saying, in fact, and this is one thing that even I am not able to understand. And who is going to do this? Whose responsibility is it? Dr. Jessani, if there is a gap between what the company is saying, and the company has been reported as having said that they are only sending it directly via the channels to the hospitals. Somewhere in between, the dealers and the distributors are doing something, which is why the drug is available in the black market and perhaps not available in the hospitals.
Yes, there is a shortage of remdesivir which we are seeing, but we have to understand from the hospital collects the remdesivir or the drug from their vendors, and these vendors are attached to the companies. So I think the question should be answered by the companies like Cipla, like when they what are they doing with the remdesivir vials? Are they giving it to the vendors, or whether they're out of stock and whether the vendors is having or not? So our hospital basically reaches out to the vendors to supply the remdesivir drug, but the vendors say that they do not have the stock. So I think somewhere in between there is a problem in which the stocks are not available. So I think it is difficult for the hospital to say what is the problem. I think it has to be solved by the company itself.
Can you also help our viewers understand why this drug is important, and the timing of using it, for which patients is it used, at what point is it supposed to be given?
See, we are talking about two drugs right now. One is Remdesivir and other is Tocilizumab. So Remdesivir is an antiviral drug, and it is indicated in patients who are moderate to severe COVID. So if any patient who is having moderate to severe COVID disease, they have a very high viral load, and in the initial part of illness, the Remdesivir acts very well. Even though Remdesivir has not shown in studies to have mortality benefit, but definitely it has shown to decrease the number of duration of hospital stay. So any patient who is moderate to severe COVID, we definitely advise Remdesivir, which has to be given, and this has to be given over a period of 5 days. And we are seeing good results with Remdesivir. When you talk about Tocilizumab is another agent, and it's the immunomodulator. So it has to be given if a patient goes into a condition called as a cytokine storm. So all patients with COVID disease who are having moderate to severe COVID disease in their process of illness, they may go into cytokine storm where there is a lot of release of cytokines, that is inflammatory markers which are released into the system. And in that condition, we give tocilizumab. Tocilizumab is also seen to be very effective when given in the cytokine storm because it decreases the level of IL-6, that is the interleukin. So patient with severe COVID has a lot of inflammation and a lot of IL-6 which is produced, and tocilizumab helps in decreasing the IL-6 level. So Remdesivir acts as an antiviral agent and brings down the viral load significantly and is helpful in moderate to severe COVID patients, whereas tocilizumab is helpful especially in severe patients who are having a cytokine storm. So both of them have their role in their particular aspect.
Okay, all right. Let me also bring in Mr. Dharmesh Shah, CMD for BDR Pharmaceuticals on the other side of this entire chain, and perhaps he can give us more insights on what's going wrong and what's happening in the market. Mr. Shah.
Hi, Tanvi, and good evening to all of you. Let me explain that I've been amongst the first one to apply to DCGI for Remdesivir. We got a permission somewhere around 24th of June, and I tied up with Cipla, and I gave my technology to Cipla under an agreement to produce and supply this product for a needy patient in the market. This is a sterile product, and the whole process of manufacturing, it's a 5 days of lyophilization cycle, and after that is a day of analysis and a 14 days of sterility. So the whole processing time, starting from dispensing of the material till the product is manufactured and released for the market, is a 20 days of process. Through Cipla, we cleared the first stock yesterday of 10,000 vials, and we have a continuous production lined up in order that there are plenty of stocks available in the market. During this 25 days, I have experienced a horrendous time of my life, being 35 years in pharma, having worked in HIV, cancer, and now COVID, that I received, along with my family, more than 1,500 calls almost every day. And we catered whatever stocks we had, which were done for the trials and which were done in order to get the approval of DCGI on a compassionate ground free of cost. I can cite examples of Dr. Belani, Dr. Parker, Dr. Vijay Ramtek, and I can cite some example. The day before yesterday, at 1 o'clock in the morning, my son got a call from a slum stayer asking that his 38-year son is admitted in a hospital in Pune. And he was speaking in Maharashtrian and he even didn't know the spelling of the product. And my son realized and he told him, but look, I am in Bombay. And how would you come to my house and pick it up? He said, don't worry, I will sell up myself and come. He came down all the way at 4 o'clock in the morning, picked up the vials which were given on a compassionate ground free of cost. And next day morning at 10 o'clock, he's calling and sharing his pleasure that his son is feeling better. There are good and bad examples. There are bad elements in every society. But as far as a company like Cipla, who is my partner in this business, is a very serious company, and that's the reason BDR agreed to tie up with Cipla. And I believe Cipla will be able to do a big justice with their reach in a critical care segment. And we know it's a pandemic. There is a big need of the vials. We know Remdesivir has been very helpful. We know that, there is a very big urge, but there is a process. It's a sterile product. You need to put a right product in the market because it's going through intramuscular and intravascular route. And we need to be sure about the quality of the product. And if you see that Cipla has been able to keep it more economical than any other vendors, and it's a very ethical company. As BDR, I'm proud to have associated with them. And I can also say that...
So, Mr. Shah, let me ask you this question. No, so the points that have been raised here so far, and I'm hoping that you are somebody who can actually give us insights and answer at least some of those questions. Can we quickly ramp this up? Cipla has already announced its targets for the first 1 month Obviously, Heathrow is also trying to produce a lot more. But for a country of our size, I don't think even that's going to be enough. We will perhaps have this problem of a shortage and then black marketing and hoarding for several months. How do we fix this problem? How do we ramp up the production? Is there something that the states and the authorities can do to help the companies?
Sure, the efforts are on right now to ramp up the production. I can tell you from my side that we are making all the efforts to have at least 100,000 vials produced and put in a market in next 30 days. And I'm sure the other manufacturers who are yet preparing themselves would be doing the same. We know that we are a country with 1.3 billion people and we have a high trajectory. So definitely all the efforts are put in order to see that at the multiple sites, the multiple productions are done to be able to bring enough stocks to the market. It's very unfortunate that everything is happening all of a sudden. It's not a synthesis of remdesivir that can be produced overnight. It's a long synthesis in terms of an API. So there is a gestation lead time to produce the raw material. And then, as I told you, almost 22 days in order to produce the finished formulation. So there are efforts to work at multiple sites. There are efforts that even during COVID, me and my team, I will cite an example. In last 70 days, we have worked 24/7. And I can tell you that in last 30 days, I myself have worked almost 24/7, not avoided a single call of a patient, trying to explain them a situation, calm them, find a way out to cater to them on a compassionate ground. And we have tried to do everything possible. And I think pharma industry is concisely aware of their responsibilities. And I think all efforts are put in order to see that we meet with this current pandemic and win it over.
Okay. I take your point. I will come back to you because I have more questions, for that you can shed light on. But if I can just go back to, Anoo Bhuyan as well on this. Anu, so essentially one aspect that you highlighted is obviously what the state authorities and the central authorities really need to do in terms of cracking down on black marketing is concerned. But, from your own research, what else has come up in terms of this problem within the supply chain? The hospital's not able to get it, but it obviously being available somewhere out there that the dealers are selling.
Yep, this has come up quite often, and this phenomenon is working out differently in different states. So I think a family that I was speaking to in Ahmedabad said that they were, that the government hospital had tocilizumab, but they were admitted in a private hospital, and then the government hospital will not give it to you if you're not admitted in the government hospital. And when I was speaking to somebody in Chennai, they had the similar story, but the other way around, which is that I think Apollo Hospital had vials of tocilizumab, but the patient was not admitted in Apollo, and so they were not able to get it from Apollo. So basically, there's a situation of anarchy here. And in this situation, and in what you were pointing out, this issue between, this case where sometimes the vendors have it and sometimes the hospitals have it. With regards to what Mr. Dharmesh is saying, there's definitely a problem, because in one of the stories that I reported on, Joel Pinto, who drove from Chennai to Hyderabad one night just to pick up 648 milligram of tocilizumab and come back to Chennai to give it to his father. He did contact Cipla in Chennai. Cipla has a helpline, and there are some representatives in Cipla who are supposed to help you. Why was he not able to get it from Cipla in Chennai, but he managed to get it from a vendor in Hyderabad who, gave it to a friend of his on the road? That's how this transaction happened. So, so there is a leakage somewhere, as much as, the government has given licenses now to Gilead has given licenses to Cipla's tied up with BDR, all of this is fine. But how is it that there is a leakage? And either you're getting it from a vendor, or you're getting it from the hospital, or you're getting it only in the government hospital. And if there are licensed and legal manufacturers and marketers for this, why are people still, finding this in the black market but not able to find it legally? So there is a leakage somewhere. And I mean, if Mr. Dharmesh can speak to that, that'll be great.
Mr. Shah, can you help us understand this part before I go to Anuja for one last answer? How is this happening, especially for a medicine that ideally should directly go to the hospitals, but it's at the vendor level that something's going wrong? Can the manufacturers, can company like yours and your partner Cipla actually fix this problem?
Let me explain and reply to the Anu's question. Official products was just available some stock by Hetero in last week. 20,000 is nothing for a country of India. And Cipla stock is going to enter in market from today. Whatever Anu has been talking about a black marketing stuff is the stuff of a Bangladeshi or any other unauthorized product which may have entered through Calcutta or through Nepal. I am not aware about it. But I think those are the kind of stuff which got sold at a black marketing price or by the unauthorized dealer. But you see the company like Cipla, the company like Mylan, they are the ones with a reputation. And we know we have a social responsibility. It's a pandemic. And we know we have been, Cipla has one of the best distribution networks. So I'm sure with all social responsibilities, going further, probably next 10 days or 20 days, there'll be enough stocks in the market because you have already heard that Mylan entering, Cipla entered in today, and we also have a letter from a drug controller to make sure that we provide every patient details on an everyday basis to the drug controller, to CDSCO. So honestly, all what we have been talking about black marketing was limited probably to the unauthorized stuff which entered into the market from Bangladesh or any XYZ. And maybe some other stockist or distributor who had a product were trying to make a big money for them. But I can tell you with 35 years in pharma, working only in HIV, cancer, and now COVID, accessibility, affordability has always been criteria. And I believe that it's a matter of another 2 weeks that you will see an ease out of this. It's not easy to reach to all India. It's a mechanism where government and companies will have to work together in order to make sure that there is accessibility and affordability.
Yes, and you say 100,000 vials is what Cipla will be able to bring to the market in the coming months. And I'm sure you will agree, even that for a country like ours is not going to be enough, even though this is just for the serious cases. Still, hospitals would like to have the stock. It can't be a situation where the families are running from one place to the other, asking and looking for this drug, or driving down from one city to the other. Now, that may change if more stock reaches, but then right now we are only talking about a few cities. All the cities and the rest of the India is not even getting this. Anuja, for example, has had the same problem. Now, Anuja, if you can also tell us, how did you really go about looking, how difficult was it for you to hunt down these dealers or the vendors or find out which hospital really has this drug?
So I am into a pharmacist. I'm a professional pharmacist, and being a professional pharmacist, also I couldn't just hunt them easily. But I have few of my friends who are into marketing department and sales department, so they came up with few of the contacts, and also my family and friends helped me a lot. So from contacts, we got other contacts who helped us in this, and at last, we got them from hospital pharmacy.
Okay, Anuja, thank you so much for joining us, and I wish speedy recovery, to your father. And I genuinely hope that you, your family, and your loved ones don't have to go through this kind of a harrowing experience ever again, and that we actually have more medicines in place. But if I can actually go back to Dr. Dange, because Dr. Dange, you will be able to add to this what Anuja was telling us earlier. Unless and until you know somebody, you won't be able to get your hands on this medicine. Now, of course, there is merit to what Dharmesh Shah is saying, that right now there is only limited stock. That stock has only been sent to Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, Hyderabad and Ahmedabad. So do you expect this situation to ease now in the coming days? Is that what we should at least look forward towards?
So let me just make a comment here. Initially, when we were trying to request the task force members, they have requested, first initiation was from the Maharashtra. We got the permission. Dharmesh Bhai and other companies hit through, and they supplied on compassionate grounds. Definitely, Dharmesh has already said that many of our colleagues in Lilavati got free, and I was the initiative to provide many of our colleagues on compassionate grounds. But the good news is that, as somebody mentioned, in the MCGM, that is the BMC, that is the Municipal Corporation of Greater Mumbai, has got the stock from 4th of July, that is last week, and the poor people who are admitted in all these MCGM hospitals are getting Remdesivir. And I think so at KEM, which we are talking of as a critical care patient, we have started on at least 40 patients who are getting their doses, and we have enough doses for next week at least. Now coming back to the other part of the population or the city's sick patients in the private sector, it is very, very important that the stock should be, the demand supply should be lessened, it should be appropriately handled, and the stock should be maintained at the hospital level. For God's sakes, it is my humble suggestion that let relatives, actually the relatives who are having positive patients admitted for severe COVID illnesses, they are supposed to be quarantined. How on earth do you expect them to move around, go and collect the medicine and bring it to the hospital? It's not practicable, it's not human, and we have to it's very important that the stock should be made available at the hospital where critical patients are being treated easily. So this is the important thing as a doctor, as a person treating the sick patient who are COVID positive, having a high viral load. This is a wonder drug, and in indicated patient, it would really make a difference. So it's my humble suggestion that we should make these stocks available at a faster rate, and the demand supply should be maintained and easily calculated for the next few days or months.
Okay, Dr. Jessani, would you want to add to that as well? You know, the problems that hospitals and doctors are facing, you know, and how are you going about this, or are you hoping that in the coming weeks it resolves with Mylan and Cipla now beginning to put their products in the market?
Yeah, I think the solution to all this problem is that we need more companies manufacturing this product. You can get the technology from abroad, but we need more manufacturing of these molecules in India by multiple companies. It is good to see that Cipla and Mylan are taking the step forward and they are manufacturing it. But I think it need to be, the manufacturing level has to be increased. There should be much more efforts which should need to be put on the manufacturing level. And besides that, there should also be taken care into the distribution aspect of it. Because the hospitals have their attachment with all those particular vendors. So vendors getting the molecules from the company, that kind of a nexus and that kind of thing should be sorted out. So that there should not be a apparent shortage which is present. And it is, as rightly said, there should be enough stocks by the vendors so that the hospital have enough stocks, and it should not be a burden on the patients. It should be the hospital's duty to keep up the stock so that the patient does not have to go, or the patient relatives do not have to go running to buy the molecule. So I think more manufacturing, proper distribution.
I'm just trying to understand that, Dr. Jessani, while what you're saying is true, but how does the proper distribution take place? It's going to be a fight. Everybody would want it. Each state will want it. Each hospital will want it. We have, patients walking in every day. There are a significant number of serious patients as well. Who and how will we decide whether 5 hospitals in Mumbai need it first, or 6 hospitals in Ahmedabad need it, or it is supposed to be sent to Chennai? Otherwise, it will just end up being chaotic, Dr. Jessani.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is a genuine concern what you are sharing. It's very difficult, and how do you give and who is the first come, first serve? Whom do you give the drugs first? But I think here, this is where the government should play a role in it and maybe regulate and see the number of cases, the density of cases in which particular area, and accordingly channelize. Because as I told you, these molecules are basically to be used in moderate to severe cases. So I think there should be a regulation in which the severe patients should receive these molecules first, compared next should be the moderate patients. So maybe some kind of a government regulation should take care into making sure that these molecules reaches the appropriate patient. I know it's a challenge, and we do not have the correct answer for this as yet.
Perhaps this is something, Anu, where the center will have to step in and decide. Otherwise, it becomes chaotic and it leaves space for people to demand the price they want.
I think it's very difficult for this to be centrally managed, and some states have taken the lead. For example, Tamil Nadu has a state procurement agency which has been very proactive in procuring a number of things, not just on the issue of Remdesivir, but also other non-COVID drugs. So I think the states really need to take responsibility. I mean, the center can do certain big things. For example, India's drug regulator is centrally managed. The NPPA is a central union institution. So there are things that can happen at that level. But in terms of really managing stocks, logistics, warehousing, cold chain, all of this kind of stuff will really have to happen at the state level. But just to answer, to respond to one thing that you've been raising over and over again, which is what can really be done about access and affordability. In the story that I've just filed, it ends with a comment by Leena, who's from Doctors Without Borders, and she makes the point, which is that there are rules and laws that exist in India to deal with situations like this. These are rules and laws that have not been used often in the past because there's a skittishness about it. You don't want to freak out the industry. So, for example, there's such a thing as compulsory licensing, where the government can ask companies to, whether they like it or not, to give a license out to a generic company to make it, and then it gets cheaper. Something that Dinesh Thakur has talked about in the past, which I've also quoted in my piece, which is that public sector undertakings run by the government can be perhaps deployed to manufacture some of these things, but India has been sidelining its PSUs for a long time. So there are things that exist. The NPPA a few years ago, when it capped the prices of stents and orthopedic implants, they did it under what is called extraordinary powers. But the government doesn't like to do all of this for a number of reasons. But I think the comment that Leena made in my piece is that she said, if we're not going to do it in a pandemic, when else is a good time to be doing these things? How much worse does it have to get for the government to step in to do, to deploy mechanisms that exist in law? So if not in a pandemic, when? And I think, if that kind of makes sense, I think that's, what I would like to end on.
Yes, actually, that's a very valid point, and thank you for raising that. Something that definitely must be looked into. Viewers, I also have Diana Montero, who's joining us right now, also a relative of a patient who's gone through a harrowing time, and I wanted to just bring out, her story, one more story as well, just to highlight how grave the problem is, even in the cities where the medicine should be available. Diana, thanks for speaking with us. If you can just, take us through the details. What happened and how much did you have to hunt? Were you able to find the medicine?
So it's been 3 days since a relative of mine has been admitted in one of the best hospitals this city has. And from day one, he was in a critical state. We have been asked on day one to go and secure Remdesivir as well as Tocilizumab, both of which were not available anywhere. We have utilized all kind of pull across hospitals, across doctors, across medical reps, everybody. Literally, we've called 500 people a day trying to source these drugs, but either one of them have not been available. There were some people who were offering Remdesivir at $50,000 a vial, and there was also another guy who offered me Tocilizumab at almost around 80,000 a vial. So I mean, of course, we asked them for pictures and we asked them whether valid. They seem to be products of Bangladesh, like was mentioned on the show earlier. So it's really been a grueling ordeal. I don't know what really the state, as well as the BMC, the health ministry, is doing about this. I mean, why aren't we producing enough, at least to match the number of customers, or rather the patients that exist? If there are 7 lakh patients, there should be 7 lakh vials a day. And we are talking about BMC giving 1,000 vials maybe every 2 days to only BMC run hospitals. So it's really unreal.
Yes, and I can imagine, how harrowing it must be for you and for your entire family. Not something that anybody at this point of time should be going when your relative is already, in the hospital in a serious condition and in need of a medicine, to have to go through that. But Dan, I just wanted to ask you. You said, one person asked you for an exorbitant amount of money, over 40,000. Another one sent you a picture of something that looked like a product from Bangladesh. Now, who are these people? Are these, hospital-linked pharmacy stores? Are these dealers and distributors that you managed to find contacts of and get in touch with them, or something online that you found?
There were a lot of messages that I got from a lot of my friends, family, relatives, giving me numbers saying that try this, try that. And we called everyone, and they seem to be maybe linked to the company's distributors. in my opinion. Which company, which distributor, I really don't know.
All right, I understand what you're saying very quickly. If I can just go back to Mr. Dharmesh, Mr. Shah, and there are lots of such voices who are right now having to go through this difficult period. I know you said that once more medicines, more vials are produced and they hit the market, this problem can be solved. But what I'm trying to understand is that why is it that it's available with dealers and not with the hospitals? Shouldn't there be a separate distribution chain here, where the medicine directly just goes to the hospitals and not go to any other chemist or retail shops?
To be honest, Tanvi, the stocks are yet to enter into the market from today. The stocks which entered into the market was only 2 lots from Hetero. That's 20,000. I don't know about the distribution network, but I can tell about Cipla, or it's going to be Mylan. I mean, it's going to go in a structured way. There's already a directive now from the central government. It has to go to the patient. We have a patient concern form in every vial. I've undergone a lot of pain and agony with my family too, because if I've developed something and if I've not been able to cater in this pandemic time, it's a very sad state of affair. I mean, I've seen people calling me and crying on the phone, and if I don't have it, I feel it helpless. And I say, what am I doing? But we all have to understand we are dealing with a chemistry. This pandemic is a situation of last 70 days, where even though as an essential industry we have been running the show, but we are running with a danger. So many staff members in our own office and works are COVID detected. We need to be so cautious about running the show. And we are dealing with a chemistry. We are dealing with a sterile product. So nothing comes overnight. There are very, very serious efforts from regulators as well as serious companies. And I believe it's a gestation time. It's a matter of maybe a week or 10 days that you will see this pressures easing out. Yes, there is one very important thing is that
No,
it has
so,
to be
so Mr.
channelized
Shah,
properly.
what I am trying to understand from you though, and I'm sorry I'm interrupting, but what I am trying to understand from you is that when your product hits the market starting today, is the channel going to be different? Is the way you're going to distribute it to cities or hospitals going to be different than what was being done? What's the process we will follow to ensure that the right people who need it first actually get it?
Learning from last 2 or 3 weeks of what is happening, I am sure that Cipla is the one who is taking care of that, and they're very professional in this manner. They're one of the best distribution network, and they are in touch with all the state governments. They are in touch with hospitals in order to understand the gravity and the need. So I don't believe that distributors will have any major role to play, because so much we have been talked about the black marketing and all. And as Dinah said, this black marketing is not an Indian product, correct? These are unauthorized product coming from any corner, and such elements exist. I mean, the government should catch them and punish them. But I think the serious companies definitely are working for this cause. And I think it's a painful situation, but all efforts are in by all the companies to step up the production and to see that in coming days there are plenty of stocks available and channelized well to be able to ensure upon that the patient in need is able to benefit. Dr. Nitin Dange, I am sure, must be aware that I am in touch with almost every doctor, and I've been taking the request and doing all my best to even use 5 vials if available with me for my stability chamber. I shouldn't be saying this on open forum, but I'm stating this because, at the end of the day, we are human beings, correct? We are running a pharma industry. We are here to cover our cost and make money, but not at the cost of a human life. And as Anshu rightly said, I think there is a need for more and more generic players to come in and step up the production and make it more affordable.
Right.
I think there are multiple solutions we need to work it together.
Yes. Yes, I think this is one place, and that perhaps is going to be my next big conversation, on these lines about generic players coming in and us ramping up the production. It can't be a situation where, for example, what's happening in United States, and one company has it and the government has managed to buy all of those stocks that's available for the next 3 months. Good for them. They have a policy, even if it's not very ethical, but that can't be the way the world really goes about this entire pandemic. Completely out of time. I'm going to thank all of the panelists for joining us. Thank you, Diana and Anuja, for sharing your stories with us. We hope that the authorities take note of this and ensure that, whatever needs to be done to ramp up the production and get the distribution right is done. People should not be having to struggle like this for a basic medicine that's required now in the times of pandemic. What else is important if not this? What else is more crucial for us to discuss, to implement, to track, for the government to look into, if not the pandemic and the drugs related to COVID treatment? I mean, does it take weeks and days of stories about black marketing for the government to sit up and just simply send a letter to the state saying, please look into this and do something about it? We need to be a lot more serious about this. We need to come up with a plan that as more medicines are produced, more of Remdesivir and other drugs are produced for COVID patients, how are they distributed? And how are they reaching the hospitals and the patients without having to ask the patients to run around looking for this medicine, or their families to do that? And if there is a Bangladeshi drug, is this legitimate? Is it not? How is it in the market? These are the questions the government needs to look into and give us answers. Thank you so much for our panelists for joining us on this conversation.